Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're well. Before we start, I just want to apologize because I'm using a different mic setup today. You know, I hope it's alright. It won't be long term, it's just for today. But I did just want to make a quick video. So yeah, anyway. Today I want to talk about quartz watch movements, my argument for them, and why I believe they have their place and should be, more respected and less dismissed by watch enthusiasts or collectors. Don't mistake my opinion for being anti-mechanical in this video. I like all movements for different reasons, and I want them to be accepted alongside one another. Some may find one more suitable than the other, but I think most will find that each has its strengths and weaknesses, like most things. I personally have a mix of quartz and automatic pieces in my collection, by choice. So, to begin, I want to differentiate between three groups of movement. Just a grouping I've made for this video, which should help me articulate my opinion. So one would be standard quartz, two is high-end quartz, and three is luxury quartz. Standard quartz is the most common, found in most quartz watches, and probably what most people have experienced with quartz. These will be in most watches that the average person would buy, such as the ones you'd buy at a mall or maybe online, Amazon, that sort of thing. Or, getting a less costly watch, and especially a fashion watch. Here, affordability is key, of course, and the accuracy of about 180 seconds plus minus a year is sufficient for most. Many watches in this price range, or which use these movements, are sold on their appearance alone, not on their internals. They're typically, but not exclusively, around £200-300 or less, for watches which include those movements, sorry. The brands that come to mind are, Casio, Timex, Hugo Boss, you like most mall brands, if you will. But there's nothing wrong with these; they have their place, and it's usually quite low, low cost, which is a positive. Next is high-end quartz. So this is like the second tier up. Obviously I'm not being like elitist. There is different advantages and disadvantages to each of these tiers, as I will get onto. So just hear me out. So the middle tier, next one I call high-end quartz, let's say. So the movement here is more accurate, higher quality, and typically more reliable than standard quartz offerings. So where watch brands source from companies such as ETA, or manufacture the movements themselves, with specific types of complications considered. Even without the complications, though, the movements are higher quality and usually feature an end-of-life indicator. This is different to perhaps, like the more generic one-size-fits-all standard quartz movements, which usually feature neither of these. The watches that utilize, high-end quartz movements are typically between about £300 and probably £1,500, maybe £2,000. And they operate to around plus minus 15 seconds a year, which is significantly better than the standard quartz. This is kind of on average. This isn't a specific movement I have in mind. Brands here that use these movements are maybe Brew, another micro brand, Dan Henry, Bolivar, Tissot, Tag Heuer, with their Formula One, and many other watches, I'm sure. Omega has quartz, or did. Zinn has a tool watch. I think the UX has a quartz movement, but it's nothing crazy. It's not like you're like standard, but it's not like super complicated. And finally, luxury quartz. So the movement inside here, is celebrated by the manufacturer. It's seen as a characteristic of the watch, and something that's really innovative, as it should be. They're more accurate than the higher-end quartz counterparts, and they're usually thermocompensated. Sometimes they're serviceable, like the Grand Seiko 9F, and the watches are usually about £2,000 or more, with an accuracy of plus minus 5 seconds a year or less. So this is really, really accurate now. As I mentioned, brands are like Grand Seiko, Citizen, Breitling has super quartz, and the Longines VHP, VHP I think, is a really high-end quartz. So that hopefully gets you on the same page as me, to kind of just get the lay of the land of what I'm really thinking with the groupings. Because now we've kind of categorized things, you can hopefully see where I'm coming from when I explain myself in just a second. I think most arguments for quartz go between either their high accuracy, like relative to the mechanical offerings, or their low cost. And for luxury quartz, the argument for them stems from how innovative, beautiful, and incredibly accurate they are. However, standard quartz falls short on the high accuracy, specifically in regards to their consistency, like deviation, and also the build quality. Luxury quartz does so due to its higher servicing costs, often being, created in such a way as to only be repaired or serviced by the manufacturer. But that middle, high-end quartz is forgotten somewhat, overlooked perhaps. Mainly, I think, as one can get a well-made, potentially independent manufacturer such as Nomos with a mechanical watch in this sort of price range. So why would you look at a quartz if the mechanical offerings are so competitive? I think the key here is the upkeep and practicality. So hear me out. This middle tier, this high-end quartz, you get the benefits of high accuracy, and whilst not as low cost as the standard quartz, the entire movements are about, 100, 150 pounds for, an entire new one. And they have the same battery replacement costs and upkeep, such as, servicing or replacement of the entire movement, which is much lower than that of a mechanical movement, and even of obviously a luxury quartz moving. So essentially you get a workhorse quartz movement in a well-made, beautiful case. So it gives one the opportunity to own some really iconic watches. It doesn't have to be these, but just to name a few, like the Omega Seamaster, Cartier Tank, Santos, or even like a Royal Oak. Without the higher running costs, you could equate it to an Audi with a VW engine. Reliable underpinnings encased in a more premium shell. Now this is where I believe it's a really compelling option. It's one that's really worth at least considering before dismissal, because you can get manufacturer movements at that price range, and I know you can get off-the-shelf movements at that price range that's from Zinn, which would be cheaper to maintain than or lower cost, to service and maintain than a Nomos with its in-house movement. But these costs are still higher just because of the parts and their complexity compared to a quartz watch. When you look at those side by side, and you could argue that the quartz would be more durable. So I'm not saying that, if you prefer a mechanical option, that's fine. I like them as well. I personally see myself, owning a quartz piece in and amongst a collection of other movements. I'm not asking you or commanding you to get rid of your mechanical watches. I'm merely suggesting that there can be both, side by side. I was recently traveling and I found my Casio's accuracy, this is like a standard quartz, to be surprisingly useful, and I was glad I had it instead of my Orient. I found it simply being quartz more useful than a GMT function, which is typically what comes to mind when you think of an ideal travel watch. But that might just be me. Maybe a quartz GMT is the pick of the bunch, but that's a separate thing. So yeah, that's basically it. I think it's this middle ground where it's to do not just with the accuracy, but the long term, the longer term kind of, like I said, like running costs, and the fact that the watch around it isn't necessarily lower quality because of it, because it's also, it's just grab and go. It's like the pick it up, oh, it's working. And if you're worried about it, its battery life, or you don't want it to just die on you, that's why an end of life indicator is there. You know that they're going to be about 3-4 years of battery life. So when you start getting the indicator telling you it's going to run out, you just replace it. But then for everything in between, it's going to be right, or pretty close to it. And that kind of peace of mind, and the fact that you can get some really nice offerings in terms of the iconic, just designs, but not even just iconic, just the well-built watch for with the quartz movement is, I think, a really, as I said, compelling option. But I'm eager to hear what you guys think. Am I alone in this take? And please share your thoughts down below. So yeah, thanks for watching. Talk soon.